We have multiple New York Jets head coaching updates as a report from Rich Cimini has revealed shocking targets in not only Rex Ryan, but also Ron Rivera as the New York Jets attempt to find their next head coach to hopefully end this playoff drought, and we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. And if you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe. It helps us out a ton. 19% of viewers are subscribed. Let's get that up. But we're here to talk about football, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Rex Ryan has been known to want this New York Jets job, and him and Ron Rivera have been highlighted as two potential targets to replace none other than Jeff Ulbrich, the Jets interim head coach, who will not be getting the job. So let's just jump into it as Rich Cimini did reveal this update. Now, what Cimini said is that former Jets head coach Rex Ryan said on Monday on ESPN, ESPN New York Radio, that he expects to interview for the Jets head coaching job. Besides Ryan, the team is also expected to interview Ron Rivera, as we know. And when asked on Monday whether he expects to interview for the team's head coaching vacancy, Ryan said, "I believe I will. We'll see what happens once the season's over." And it just sounds like the Jets will certainly at least give the interview to Rex Ryan. Obviously, the last New York Jets head coach to see the playoffs. Rex wants to go back to being the Jets head coach. He believes that if he was the head coach of the New York Jets this season, then the Jets most likely would have went undefeated in his mind. Probably unlikely, though I do think the Jets would have been much better with Rex Ryan, as he would have found a culture for this team. The Jets need a culture changer, especially if guys like Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, and Garrett Wilson are all on the team next season. They're going to need someone to set a tone, and Rex Ryan, a classic guy, will quickly gain the respect in the locker room of everyone there. You know that's going to be the case. The big question is how his defense would hold up, and if he would hire a defensive coordinator. Obviously, he would need an offensive coordinator, and that is all conversations for a later date. As just looking at Rex Ryan now, we know, Matt, that he's not someone who He's not the front runner for this job, so we don't have to speculate on who his OCs might be or his DC if he has one as well, or just the staff in general. But it is an interesting thing to see that Rex Ryan will be getting an interview with the New York Jets.
So the New York Jets, of course, not in a position to be picky with who they're interviewing. There's no downside to interviewing Rex Ryan, because maybe he comes in and says something that Woody Johnson didn't consider in the past, and he's very different from other candidates. But we know a lot of Jets fans love Rex Ryan. They want to see him back coaching the New York Jets. They know what kind of culture that he would bring to the Jets. They wouldn't take anything from anybody. Would be a hard-hitting defense. We certainly have the pieces on this roster to turn into an elite team. Just need the culture-building head coach to be able to put the pieces together. Both Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera have been head coaches in this league before. They've both been successful head coaches. Ron Rivera taking the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl with Cam Newton. Didn't win, but he made it there, farther than the Jets have made it in the past 50 years. Rex Ryan, he almost made it as well. 2 back-to-back AFC Championship games that I'm sure everyone watching this video knows about. These guys are both guys that would be defensive-minded head coaches first. Would be very important to see who they bring in as their offensive coordinators, seeing how the league is ran on offense, and every single year there are more and more rules catering towards the offense, whether it's protecting the quarterback extra or protecting wide receivers. They're always making it so Roger Goodell wants to see points getting scored. It's why the NFL's ratings are so much better than the NBA, but maybe that's just because basketball is a less interesting sport. However,
basketball clears.
Back to the Jets, back to these two candidates. They're both very capable guys. The question, like you said, is would Rex Ryan's defense be able to translate to the modern NFL? The NFL, since it's become more of a passing league since he went away back in 2014, defenses have transitioned to using almost exclusively a 2 high, which means both safeties are way back about 10 to 12 yards off the line of scrimmage, and they play half of the field each, and then the other 9 defenders would then cover / rush the quarterback / cover that intermediate area. And this makes it to take away the deep ball, and it makes it so NFL teams, the offenses can't score those one-play touchdowns. They're going to have to work their way down the field. And if they commit a penalty like a hold or a false start and get themselves behind the sticks, that's when it gets really tough, and you got to make sure they play really high-level, mistake-free offense. Even if you're giving up 3 to 4 yards per play, one mistake can make it really difficult. So is Rex Ryan, we know he likes to blitz, is he going to adapt to this? I'm sure he will adapt at least a little bit. The question is he going to adapt enough to the point where his defense is still going to come back and be elite, because we know he wants to run the ball a lot on offense, and we know that whoever the quarterback is for the Jets, he does not want to put a lot on that player's plate. He doesn't want to make them be the reason why the Jets are winning. And looking at the options for the New York Jets next year, he probably isn't going to have a quarterback who is capable of carrying the team. Even Aaron Rodgers, what we've seen from him this year, we see the stats, but if let's say, best case scenario, we make it to the playoffs, we're seeing Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. There's no quarterback out there that is going to give us the advantage in one of those situations. So the way Rex Ryan is going to be different is by his defense. So we needed to see him adapt. I'm also excited to see what Ron Rivera would bring to the table with his defense. He is a guy who his nickname was Riverboat Ron. He liked to go for it a lot on fourth down and take a lot of risks. Maybe he was ahead of his time. We see in the modern NFL, being the last 3 to 4 years, it feels like people are going for it on fourth downs whenever they can. We see Dan Campbell loves to go for it on fourth down, and he's completely flipped the landscape of the Detroit Lions, brought them out of the darkness of the NFL, one of the worst franchises historically, into prominence by going for it on fourth down, by sending the message to his locker room: I believe in you guys. We're better than these guys. We're going to go for it on every single fourth down because they can't stop us. Riverboat Ron Rivera would be someone, he doesn't bring the same type of gusto. Like, he's not that type of players coach where all the players look at him and go, oh, we want to play for this guy. He's one of us. He's not that rah-rah type of coach, but he does take risks. And if he was the head coach, it would be very, very exciting. Maybe not all the risks would work out. Maybe they wouldn't all be the right risks to take, but it would definitely be a roller coaster to watch him take over the New York Jets next year.
I think the Jets could use someone similar to Ron Rivera's style, though. Someone who's not afraid to show the team that he trusts them and all, but it's not through just his words, like going into press conferences and having Jeff Ulbrich say that Hassan Reddick's one of the most selfless guys he's ever met, or weird stuff like that. Like, Ron Rivera is not going to say that. He'll show them on the field that he believes in them, and I think the Jets need more of that than more of a, like, pat me on the back type coach. And Rivera is not exactly that guy.
Wait, you mean instead of a pat me on the back type coach?
Yeah. Sorry. Instead of a pat me on the back type coach, the Jets need something more like that. I was wondering what I said. I saw your face. I was curious. But no, like, that style hasn't worked for the Jets, and they need to go in a different direction. And either of these guys I like the idea of. I'd rather someone who can be more modern, but at the same time, both guys will bring something to the Jets that they desperately need. Now, on the topic of Rivera, where Samini highlighted it, he did mention nothing absolutely at all. No, so he did say that the Jets retained the 33rd team to provide data analysis for their searches for both the general manager and the head coach, and former Jets GM Mike Tannenbaum and former Minnesota Vikings GM Rick Spielman, who served as an advisor to the Washington Commanders GM and coaching searches last year, are leading the project for the 33rd team. Tannenbaum was the Jets GM when Ryan was hired as the team's head coach in 2009, and Ryan got off to a fast start with the Jets, leading the franchise to back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances that we all know of. So having this team, having the 33rd team, is going to be huge for the New York Jets, because it brings this situation in where Woody Johnson hired guys to basically do what he's been doing, which is picking a GM and a head coach, essentially, and Woody Johnson has not been good at that. Neither is Chris Johnson. So, yeah, you get these outsiders who were hired by the Commanders, who over the last year have had a completely transcendent situation. So the 33rd team has worked in the past. Like, they've been successful. So you look at them, there's a world where this works out, and yes, they're partial to guys like Rex Ryan, like Ron Rivera. They both have connections. It's why they're getting these interviews outside of Rex Ryan's obvious connection to the Jets. So I think it's interesting the 33rd team is doing this. I am curious to see how being partial to guys that they know and have been around before are going to have impacts on the New York Jets. I think hiring them was a good idea just based off the way we've seen the Washington Commanders absolutely turn around the entire dynamic of their team over the last year.
If you are someone watching this video who wants Rex Ryan as the head coach of the New York Jets, that 33rd team Mike Tannenbaum connection is extremely important, because we know they trust each other. They're on ESPN's Get Up in the morning a lot together, And most of the times they agree with each other. So if you are rooting for Rex Ryan, he is going to be higher on Woody Johnson's list because the guys that Woody Johnson has placed his belief in and his trust in, they are definitely going to be calling the name Rex Ryan. They're going to be hyping him up, and that's going to make Rex Ryan more likely to be the New York Jets head coach for next year, whether that's warranted or not. That connection is going to make it so Tannenbaum's going to look at him through rose-tinted goggles. He's going to remember him a little bit more fondly than maybe he deserves to be, but I like Rex Ryan. If Rex Ryan was the next head coach for the New York Jets, I would have no questions with that. It would just be like we always say, but can't stop saying, that offensive coordinator position, absolutely, extremely, extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, it comes down to the OC position if you hire Rex Ryan. I won't be mad at a Rex Ryan hiring. I really wouldn't be mad at a Ron Rivera hiring either. I would prefer a younger guy, but at the same time, both of these guys have proven they can win at the NFL level in the past. I am curious, though. Who else is certainly going to get an interview? Outside of Aaron Glenn, who else are we sure? Is there anyone else outside of these three? Like, we have 2 confirmed and Aaron Glenn.
Vrabel, unless Belichick says no, Vrabel will definitely get interviewed.
Out of those 4, pick your favorite real quick.
I guess I'd probably go with Vrabel out of those 4.
I was leaning towards Vrabel. Part of me thought Aaron Glenn, but at the same time, I don't really know. I'd rather someone who has head coached before, especially if Rodgers and Adams are back. I think they could use someone who's not a first-time head coach, so they can't be bulldozed. Part of me wants Rex Ryan. I know that's just a part of me screaming how fun that would be, and I wouldn't mind it. Honestly, any of those 4 guys, I would not mind. I think Vrabel's the coolest hire and probably the best, but I really do think he's on a one-way ticket to a different team, whether it's just the Browns or Ohio State.
So we talked about Ohio State. Ohio State looked tremendous in that first game against Tennessee. Absolutely blasted a team that was a pretty close underdog in terms of those first-round spreads went. It was 7.5 points, which is kind of a lot of points, but that was the shortest spread of the weekend. So I think they looked better that weekend because he was coaching for his job and the offensive coordinator was coaching for his job as well, so they didn't hold anything back. We're going to see how it looks against Oregon. If they beat Oregon, Ryan Day's the head coach, the current head coach of Ohio State's going nowhere, so that job's going to be off the table. If he beats Ryan Day, blows out Tennessee in the playoffs, beats the number 1 seed Oregon Ducks, you're not going to be firing him. With the massive contract that he's on, he's not going to get fired, so Mike Vrabel will have to go find another job.
Yeah, and I think he'd then take the Browns job. But I do want to know what you guys think down
below.
Well,
that's if the Browns job's available. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year. It feels like it was last year. It was definitely one of the last 3 years. I swear I thought it was last year.
Well, regardless, let us know what you guys think down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Jets. Also, guys, in case you're wondering, Matt wears a wig.